Good morning. Again, it's October the 12th, 2023. This is part 3 of the video. And so we stumbled through this. At times he tried another incident that happened to him that was very scary for my son, was that we had a friend who lived with us that drove tow truck. And he was in the three of them were in the front seat. Of course, there's only the bench seat in the front with a tow truck. So there was a driver, our friend, and then of course my son was in the middle, and my husband was he was on the passenger side, right by the door. And jokingly, the driver, our friend, turned around and said to him, because of all the trauma and that, he jokingly said, "Well, I'm going to drive. Well, I'll just drive by OC Transpo." And apparently, from what my son said, my husband just freaked out, panicked, and he tried to, he was going down the Queensway at the time again, and in the tow truck, and he tried to open the door of the tow truck and tried to unclip his seatbelt and jump out. And my son, shaken by this, turned around and said, "Mom, I was just so lucky I was able to manage to sit on the clip of the seatbelt so he couldn't unclip the seatbelt. And, Mom, you've got to do something." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? I can't do anything here. And so we were in counseling, so I told the counselor that at the time. And later, he was such a bully himself, my husband. It was so bad at that point. He tried to make it out that I was a crazy one, that I over-exaggerated it. And of course, I'm sitting there, and he's sitting right across from me, and I can't say anything. That I was forced into a position where, because he was sitting there giving me those looks, "You say the wrong thing, just wait till we get home." And after nearly being strangled and that, I was really feeling like scared. I was terrified, so I had to kind of retract some of my statements that I had made, even to the counselor at the time. So I had to try and smooth that down. But I was terrified at the time. And eventually it got to the point where things got so bad with my daughter and that there was things going on between her and my husband. There was background things. There's a lot of things that are behind this, but the shooting at OC Transpo, the bullying, was really the icing on the cake, so to speak, when all this broke loose. And finally she went and complained to the police. And so I was caught in the middle on a catch-22. She had me hauled in to the police station too. The detective came in, talked to me, and I explained everything as I'm explaining on the video to you the best I could. That's where the detective came in. In the end, it ended up there was 21 charges laid against my second husband. But there was also another incident that needs to be reported too, is because after the shooting, there was this is extremely important as well, that the nurse from OC Transport, was a new nurse, called him up to see how he was doing at home. He exploded at her as well. And I'm looking at him, and boy, am I giving him dirty looks like, "Keep your mouth shut, you're going to be in trouble." And he was going on to her about the shooter and how he wanted to do this in 1988 to the foreman. He was ready to go in and kill the foreman. And so, of course, she didn't know him very well. She didn't understand what was going on. And she didn't have a clue, but she thought when he said he was going to do what the shooter was going to do, she ended up calling the police. The next thing I know, I have the police at my door. I had the sergeant, and I fully believe a rookie he was trying to train. And of course, he did what he was supposed to do. And the sergeant was, we were out at the front, and I was standing on the veranda. My husband was down in front of the veranda with the sergeant talking to him. The rookie was on the sidewalk at the time. And so the sergeant realized he was just blowing off steam. And he was trying to explain to him, he was talking about 1988, not 1999 at that point. And he was and how he was hurt and injured and everything at OC Transpo. And of course, this young rookie kept coming up behind the sergeant, kept going, "When are we going to put the cuffs on him? When are we going to put the cuffs on him?" And of course, the sergeant kept dismissing him, because every time he came up, my husband was getting more riled, and I knew exactly what the sergeant was doing. and he was calming him down. He was doing exactly what his training told him to do, to de-escalate the situation. But every time this rookie kept coming in, when are you going to put the cuffs on him? When are you going to put the cuffs on him? I'm looking at this rookie, and I'm almost ready to deck him. Just leave the sergeant do his job. He knows what he's doing, and you're supposed to be watching him and learning off of him, not off in your own twilight zone somewhere. So this was another incident that happened. So it eventually ended up that he ended up getting arrested. There was a lot of things. Trial was delayed. There was lawyer problems. It's really complicated with that. But on the 21 charges, apparently most of it was what my daughter said against him, or what it was more hearsay, what I said to him saying, and the only thing he got caught in the end was with the assault with a weapon on me, because that was a situation where that morning I had a craft show to go to, and I was loading up the suitcases in the back of the vehicle. Now, he just had a heart attack. Well, not a heart attack, but he had to get a stent put in a few months before, and I didn't expect him to carry the heavy suitcases. I just expected him to drive the truck and drive me there. So I got the kids up early, and they were helping me to load the truck. And that morning when I got up, he wasn't happy because apparently, I guess I hadn't cooked his eggs or something, his breakfast quite right. And he came in and he threw the plate across the room, and it smashed into the fridge. And I cleaned it up, and since it was garbage day, I had thrown the plate in the garbage. At the time when I talked to the detective, I couldn't even remember what it was that what had fully happened, except that I got cut. Because what ended up happening was he picked up, that garbage bag happened to be on the top of the garbage pile, and he got mad at me for loading the truck, and then he threw the garbage bag at me, and the broken plate cut through me. And of course, the one thing I did have was a scar on the wrist, and I never complained. I could have, and I never told authorities. I just took this as part of the situation that was happening with me. So I still have this scar on my wrist, and of course the police photographed it and everything. So in the end, all he got was 9 months probation for that, and it almost, and we put impact statements in and everything into the court at the time. So it was a really big schmozzle, but I had to keep quiet all these years because I knew that he wanted his pension, and I wanted some of his pension too, of course, that I was due to after almost 30 years of marriage, and we've been together for almost 34 years, just over 34 years probably, all totaled. So it was a really, really rough ride. So when I'm talking about bullying in the workplace, I've seen this before. You've probably seen films like, for an example, down in the United States, where disgruntled employees come into McDonald's and start shooting up the place. So bullying is not worth it, and this is why I'm trying to deal with the bullying, and I'm seeing it in a really bad way on the streets right now. And by the way, one of these ones that was shot and killed, who was doing the bullying on the shooter, it was awful because I talked to someone a few years later, and they also said this bully was bullying people in the neighborhood, and when he didn't like what was going on, he ratted people out to the cops, apparently. So he was known for being a bullier and being a rat. So one of them probably got what he deserved in the end. But if you're going to bully, you sometimes could end up on the other end of the stick, so to speak. And that's what happened to these 4 bullies that were picking on everyone in the end. But this was 20 years in the making because they expected this to happen. And if it's not nipped in the bud or taken care of, then you've got a very, very serious problem on your hands. And this is why I'm trying to calm Julie down. She's getting bullied a great deal, but it's not only her. There's other bullies out there, and a lot of the girls are getting bullied very badly right now. And it's not only by the males, it's also the females that are doing the bullying right now. So trying to calm a situation down and trying to explain, you need sometimes just talking to somebody will calm the situation down, is what the sergeant was doing at that time with my ex-husband. So again, I've given you quite a story, and it's a long story, but I understand where people are coming from. I've been As my grandfather, pardon me, used to tell me, before you judge a person, walk in their shoes. And over the many years that I've been here, in my 70 years on this planet, I've walked in many shoes, along with a few moccasins as well, and I've seen it from all angles of what's happening here. So if you don't think I don't understand, I do understand the situation. And that's why, as seniors in our indigenous culture, we're called the wisdom keepers, our seniors, because we have all this wisdom that we built up over the years, including those that have gone into the residential schools have got a lot of wisdom. They understand the abuse. I understand the abuse that they went through. I understand it in a different way, but they didn't have to be bullied. They did not have to be hurt. They did not have to be assaulted in many different ways. So this is something that I'm hoping that to bring out my story, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I feel that it's necessary to tell my story, because I'm planning on keeping that promise, excuse me, that I had made in the shelter at the time, to speak out for abused women. And this is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to leave it for today. Everyone, take care. Have a nice day. Be safe, and we shall talk to you again soon, and bye-bye.